When trying to win an NBA championship, the construction of the roster absolutely needs to be a certain way, and history has proven this. Championship teams tend to have one clear-cut number one superstar option who the offense runs through, one or two other star-caliber guys capable of taking some of the burden off of the shoulders of the number one guy, highly talented role players in lesser roles capable of stepping up in big moments and producing when the team needs them to, and a strong, impactful bench with guys that don't try to do too much and stick to what they're good at. This brings us to the topic of today's video, where we will be discussing the Boston Celtics. The Celtics made an impressive run to the conference finals this year, but that's where their run ended. On paper, they were the favorites against the Miami Heat and seemingly had more talent top to bottom, yet the series was filled with frustration and inconsistencies, so I can't help but wonder, are the Celtics too perfectly built? They have players that fit into every category that I just listed, yet it didn't result in the production they hoped for at times. In this video, we'll discuss where things went wrong, what exactly needs to change, and how they should progress moving forward. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. 4 years ago, the Celtics drafted Jaylen Brown, and the year after that, they drafted Jayson Tatum, and from there, they formed a terrific two-man partnership to build around for the future, with more emphasis in today's NBA being on switchability, versatility, and positionless basketball. Having two wing players that can produce in multiple different ways like these two can was a fantastic way to start, especially when both Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward suffered injuries in Tatum's first season. These two got very valuable experience in the 2018 postseason that would help speed up their development. Last season, they entered the year as the favorites to win the East because Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward came back healthy, and they were added to a team that had just made a conference finals run. But the season ended in nightmare as all of the egos started to clash and chemistry was never truly there. And despite all of the talent that they were able to put on the floor, they got eliminated in the second round and took a surprisingly worrying step back. They're now in a very similar position to where they were in 2018, having made it to the conference finals, and this time they need to ensure that they take a step forward next season instead of a step back like they did in 2019. This really should have been the year that the Celtics made it to the finals, because Danny Ainge made all of the right moves to put together a team with enough talent all around to check all the boxes a finals contender needed. From what I mentioned at the start of the video, Jayson Tatum fits the role of the number one guy and go-to scorer. Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker are strong secondary star players that can make life easier for Tatum and take pressure away from him at times by taking over themselves. Marcus Smart is one of the best and most impactful role players in all of the NBA, and then guys like Gordon Hayward, Daniel Tice, Grant Williams, Brad Wanamaker, and Enes Kanter make up a balanced group of role players and bench players. What I believe went wrong for Boston though, which is the key point I wanted to make in this video, is that I think the Celtics have too many egos to feed for one team. Now to clarify, when I say ego, I do not mean by any means that the players are difficult to coach, difficult to play with, or bad guys in the locker room by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I actually think the opposite of pretty much all of them. What I do mean, however, is that a lot of the players at the top of the pecking order have the mindset of a star player, and in turn can tend to play somewhat selfishly at times instead of embracing the role that the Celtics need them to embrace. Watching the conference finals series against the Heat this year, it was very noticeable that the chemistry the Heat played with on the court blew away the chemistry of the Celtics, with everything clicking and running smoothly as possible on both ends. Jimmy Butler is the obvious number one guy on the team, but the thing about the way he leads is that he allows the game to come to him naturally instead of ever trying to force anything, and he is very comfortable trusting his teammates to produce within the flow of the offense naturally when it doesn't come his way. It's not until late in the game that he really takes over, but even then he trusts the guys around him to make winning plays. One game Tyler Hero can be on fire and Jimmy will gladly step back and allow him to cook. Another game may be Bam Adebayo or Duncan Robinson catching fire, and by all means the hot hand gets fed on Miami and nothing ever feels forced or out of control. On Boston, a lot of their success seemed to come based solely off of the talent of the individual players being able to convert tough plays, and really didn't look like they were always on the same page. Jayson Tatum is justifiably someone who can isolate on offense and look to take his matchup off the dribble to get his shot off, and even though a lot of the attempts he takes are objectively difficult shots, he does convert them at a rate that allows him to get the green light. But when the shots aren't falling, it becomes an issue and takes the team out of the flow of the game. We saw this in Game 1, where they went to overtime and Tatum couldn't convert his looks down the stretch. We saw it again in Game 4 when Tatum went scoreless in the first half, and we saw it once again down the stretch in Game 6. During these stretches, Jaylen Brown has a tendency to become invisible at times, which is bad because the Celtics are at their best when he's aggressive. This season, including both the regular season and playoffs, the Celtics went 31-12 when Jaylen scored over 20 points. So when he's playing well, the team usually plays well. He's probably the most unselfish player on the team, moving well off the ball, getting himself open looks through his movement, and he's willing to spot up. When the team added Kemba Walker this summer, they did so hoping he would replace Kyrie Irving's production and fit in better than Kyrie did, and in some ways that was true. But ultimately, Kemba's best attributes have always been his shot creation off the dribble, which, as I said before, leads to more dribbling and standing around by those around him, and more difficult shots off the dribble being taken. He and Tatum have very similar mindsets out on the floor, and while teams have been able to make the your turn, my turn thing work in the past, this wasn't sustainable for Boston. Kemba himself had a pretty lackluster postseason this year, which also led to the Celtics' elimination. The good news for Boston is that Tatum is only 22 years old and will continue to improve both production-wise and mentality-wise for many years to come, and Jaylen Brown will be a strong running mate over that span as well. What they need as a team is more unselfish approach, because as we saw this year, chemistry is one of the biggest factors in success. The Nuggets beat the Clippers because of the Clippers' chemistry issues, and the Heat advanced to the finals because of how well they were all on the same page at all times. Putting together a highly talented group of guys is only half the battle, and as the title of the video says, they may have done a little bit too good of a job in this regard without thinking of how they would play together. Next season is only going to get tougher in the East, with Miami likely coming back even stronger, the Nets getting Kevin Durant back, Giannis entering a make-or-break season, and several other teams with tons of talent looking to make some noise, so the Celtics certainly have some competition. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what kind of changes you think the Celtics need to make next year to take that next step. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.